Hi, everybody. It's Saturday night at 5:30, and you know what that means. It's Gal's Saturday Night live stream. Oh, look, and I just got a notification that I'm live. How do you like that? So I guess the Facebook notification meta type stuff does work. Thank you for that, Facebook. Huh. So, anyways, again, welcome to my Saturday night live stream. I've been doing this since August, and I am really glad for anybody who's joining us tonight. I have so much information to give to you. It's unbelievable. I think I'm at like 6 pages of notes. Oh my God. So I'm going to jump right in. Oh, looks like we've got 5 watchers already. Hi, Sue. I just want to say hello to everybody. I have so much stuff to present. I may or may not be able to interact with folks, and I apologize in advance if I cannot. Hi, Mark. Always glad to have Mark Ramponi on, and Sue, and everybody else too. I know that Lisa's watching, Piper is watching, and everybody else that's going to be joining. Again, thank you very much. And Christine, hey, long time no see. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. So nice to see everybody who's joining us. So thank you for watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube, wherever you're watching from. And thank you for watching at a later time if that's when you're watching. There's so many podcasts and live streams that I want to watch. I never have time to watch them all. So sometimes I'll put them on at a later time when I'm doing housework or putting on my makeup or that kind of thing. So if you don't get a chance to watch the whole thing tonight, come back at a later time and I'm, in YouTube history, I think they're going to be on the internet forever. Long after I'm gone, you're going to be able to watch these. I think that's funny. But anyways. So again, like I said, hi, Lisa, there you are. I have so much information to present. I may not be able to interact with folks. I do have so many notes, like I said. But here we are on Saturday night, ready to, hi, Carrie, ready to discuss the mysterious and macabre, and reincarnation as a subject is no different. So to do a little housekeeping, I do want to remind everybody that this is an 18 and over conversation. You know what I like to say? Sometimes I'm kind of disturbed that we're not more disturbed by the disturbing things that we talk about. But hi, Nathan. Nice to see you too. And I like to swear. So Will is in the house. Hi, Will. Wow, everybody. So nice to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I've been doing this for a few months now, but I still consider myself new to live streaming, and I still consider myself new to StreamYard. So please critique, but be kind. If you have any harsh critiques for me, please DM me. I do have a new camera, so I'm in 1080 DPI, and my microphone stand got a little funky, so I had to do a little improv here. I do apologize for the tape and whatnot, but I had to put my microphone up on a stand. So anyways, yeah, my point was I am changing a few things up, trying to get a little better. Like I said, I got a better camera. I'm trying to use the microphone better, trying to utilize the things that StreamYard has. Oh my God, it has so many great features. I do pay for it. I pay monthly to use StreamYard. So I better get use out of these features. And I really feel like I do. I want you to get comfortable during tonight's conversation. Hi, Erin. Nice to see you. And yeah, Nathan, I think this was a good background for tonight's conversation of reincarnation. So get yourselves comfortable. Pour a cup of coffee, glass of wine, crack a cold beer. And I want to remind everybody this is a 420 friendly space. Smoke them if you got them. I know I sure did. Do whatever it takes to get yourself comfortable. Curl up on the couch with your favorite blanket or with your dog or your cat, and get comfortable while we talk about reincarnation tonight. I am not going to cite my sources for research. If you really want to know what they are, DM me and I'll tell you in a DM, just like I'm going to tell you now. You know what? Look it up yourself. I try to utilize good resources, but you all have a Google finger. I'm not going to tell you where I got this information. Look it up yourself. Don't take my word for it. I am no expert on anything, but I am a pretty good researcher. But I'm also my own research assistant. So any research errors are mine and mine alone. And that research assistant, she just better stay on her toes. I'm also my own graphic designer. You will notice tonight there is a real lack of um, graphics that I'm sharing. I have one graphic that I'm going to share much later. Um, but I'm going to talk about a few different people, but in little blurbs. So I didn't think it was really necessary to put a picture up of everybody. So yeah, I just don't have a lot of graphics tonight. So I do hope you are enjoying the background. I have like a light on it, so I think it's kind of cool. So let's see, where am I? Shout out to Michelle. We are live from Lizzie Lou Studio. And as you all know, Lizzie Lou Studio is a play on Michelle's middle name and my middle name. And I do live stream because of Michelle. I love you, Michelle. Thank you. And shout out to Ladybug Pest Control, because if you are going to have a good hobby, you have to have a good day job. I'm very fortunate that my situation allows me I work 4 days a week. I'm very lucky. I work in an office at Ladybug Pest Control, and I have the time to research and I have the time to live stream. So I'm very, very grateful for the day job so that I can do what I like to do in the nighttime. And speaking of, getting a cold drink, I'm drinking my favorite peach. It's like a Gatorade kind of thing. Got to stay hydrated. It's very dehydrating to talk for an hour. Trust me. And I like to talk a lot, but to talk straight for an hour is very dehydrating. So I gave my shout outs. We have a lot to cover. I do want to present a lot of material, but I do ask, feel free to share your experiences on reincarnation. I'm going to share one experience of my own much later. I don't know if it's reincarnation, but it's weird as heck. And I hope you like my t-shirt. I got a different t-shirt on tonight. My gal's t-shirt is in the wash. So I'm wearing this one, which I absolutely love. I bought this at the Traveling Oddities and Curiosities show in Providence, Rhode Island. I went with my friend Joan last year, and I bought this, and I absolutely love it. And it's very comfortable. Let's see. Join the conversation. Like I said, if you do want to be on and talk about this, let me know. I'll send you a link. And after I present my information later on, we'll have a conversation. I would, again, love to hear anybody else's experiences. So I'm going to present a bunch of information, and then I'm going to talk about three of the more kind of famous cases of reincarnation that have been in the news, in the public eye, and viral things. The internet certainly makes things, more in the forefront than they used to be. If you remember when we talked about Krampus, nobody knew who Krampus was. Somebody discovered, I think in the year 2000, that cache of really cool postcards, published them online. They went viral, and that was how Krampus really took off in the mainstream. So there's a lot to be said for that. So anyways, jumping right in, reincarnation is, there we go. Oh, and Lisa loves the backdrop too. Thank you very much. Reincarnation. It's the rebirth of a soul in a new body. It's also known as transmigration. And I found a really weird tidbit. The use of the word reincarnation really skyrocketed in the late 1800s. I don't know how they keep track of such things, but I guess there's, language trends. And the use of the word reincarnation really skyrocketed in the late 1800s with the spiritualism movement. So that kind of makes sense, and because I think that the spiritualism movement in the late 1800s brought a lot of this stuff more to the mainstream, if not in the mainstream, more to the mainstream. I heard somebody say once that there was a time where, maybe back in the 60s and 70s in England, not everybody knew a practicing pagan, but everybody knew somebody who knew somebody was. So that's kind of the thing here. so anyways, that you kind of knew somebody that was doing the spiritual movement. So that all kind of took off, and the word reincarnation really took off in the English language in the late 1800s. So there are many different schools of thought on reincarnation. There's religious, there's scientific, there's spiritual, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about a lot. So I'm going to give you a little bit of knowledge about a lot of different things, and do with it what you may. I don't cite anything as fact. Nothing here is opinion. I'll tell you a little bit about my opinion later, but I think what I'm trying to do is show you some very many different aspects, different beliefs from different peoples, so to speak, on reincarnation. So reincarnation, the belief of being reborn in a new body, was contemplated by, hey Bruce, nice to see you. Reincarnation was contemplated by Plato and Socrates, and who's the other? By Pythagoras. So reincarnation as a concept of rebirth in a new life form is not unusual. I'm pulling my socks up, sorry, but it's not unusual. It really goes back very far. Back then, in those days, in the days of the philosophers, it was taught as metaphysics, METAM physics. So, but to think that the great minds were thinking about reincarnation, and then the indigenous peoples, and when I say indigenous peoples, I certainly don't mean any offense to anybody, but anywhere and everywhere in the Americas, North America, South America, Central America, Australia, Asia, Europe, there have been people living for years and years, long before there were colonizations and settlements and conquistadors. And again, I never ever intend to make a comment on colonization. That's another story for another day. But what I am saying is that there have been places that have been populated for thousands and thousands of years, and those indigenous folks believed in a rebirth, that your soul would be reborn in another body. The Vikings believed in reincarnation. The Vikings believed so much in reincarnation that this is where the concept of naming your child after somebody, naming your child after your father or after yourself, or after somebody, that's where that concept originates. I'm really painting things with a broad brush here. You know me, I'm giving you a generalization. If you're interested, look it up yourself and find a little bit more about it. What I am trying to tell you is that like throughout the ages, throughout history, there have been beliefs in reincarnation, beliefs in being born again in a different body. Pagan and Wiccan, the belief in the cycle of spiritual growth. It's in pagan and Wiccan beliefs, reincarnation is seen as a chance to evolve spiritually through new experiences and to learn things through new experiences. And you'll kind of hear more of that theme as time goes on about reincarnation. Buddhism and Hinduism both teach rebirth. The goal, let's see, in Buddhism is to reach nirvana, and Hinduism is to reach something called moksha. But those two, to reach those goals, means you've been reborn and you've learned your lessons, because ultimately the goal is to end the cycle of rebirth, because you've learned your lessons, completed your goals, done what you were supposed to do, completed your tasks. So the end result, the final goal being that you don't have to be reborn again, and that you go to kind of a nirvana, kind of like a heaven type situation. And then you've got the ancient Egyptians, who did not believe in reincarnation. And I said, wait a minute, I watch Ancient Aliens, don't you? But wait a minute, no, they don't believe in reincarnation. And they're absolutely right. They don't believe that you're reborn. what the ancient alien, well, I don't want to say the ancient aliens, sorry, the ancient Egyptians, I'm sorry about that. The ancient Egyptians believed was that your soul journeyed to an afterlife. Um, thus the importance of mummification, of being in tune with your mummified pets and animals, and being buried with your riches and with money and with coins and with gold, because you are going to be transformed into an afterlife of eternal life, not rebirth, eternal life. So there's definitely a difference between rebirth and eternal life. So I think Egyptians kind of looked at death as just kind of another phase of your energy or spiritual journey. Again, not being reborn, but journeying to an afterlife. Not a new form, not a new form. Reincarnation, being born into a new form. And then you've got Islam, who does not. And I again make no. I'm not speaking for any religion. These were some really brief Google searches and that kind of thing about what different religions believe about reincarnation. But generally speaking, Islam, they believe in paradise and hell, an ultimate reward and punishment, and they believe in eternal life after death. That is not reincarnation either. So they don't believe that you are reborn. Judaism, there are different types of Judaism have different beliefs about reincarnation. Let's see, some in Judaism, being, I guess, generally speaking, Jewish, and again, I don't mean any offense to anybody, forgive my ignorance. Some believe in a heavenly realm, and if you believe in a heavenly realm, that's an afterlife. That's not a reincarnation. And some believe that the righteous will be resurrected, which is also not reincarnated, because it's not a new form. You're coming back as yourself. Christianity believes in an afterlife, which is judged by God. The belief in Jesus Christ grants eternal life in heaven. And heaven is joyous communion with God. That is the textbook definition of heaven, is joyous communion with God. And conversely, if you reject God, you will go to hell. And the definition of hell is eternal separation from God. So interesting. But well, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all believe kind of in a heaven and hell kind of a thing. And an afterlife, an eternal afterlife, that again, that is not reincarnation. So what's interesting, like I said, it's reincarnation is not accepted by the Catholic Church. I'm on to page 2 of my notes. But 29% of Catholics believe in reincarnation, even though the Catholic Church frowns on it. And 10% of people in the Catholic Church say that they actually recall past life experiences. So I guess they're probably not telling that in confession. And again, no offense to anybody. But I just thought that was interesting, is that, Catholicism frowns on the idea of reincarnation, because I guess it goes against the other concept of the afterlife. But 29% believe in it, and 10% believe that they have had an afterlife. They have afterlife recollections. So that's really an overview of what some of the different major religions think of reincarnation. Now you've got the scientific schools of thought. What are the scientific schools of thought on reincarnation? I'm going to pull Carl Sagan out. Billions and billions of stars. Didn't he used to say something like that? So this backdrop is kind of a tribute to Carl Sagan. Anyways, Carl Sagan believed that reincarnation did not exist. There was no proof for it. Period. End of story. That was the scientist Carl Sagan. No conversation about it. I feel like my light is kind of going in and out. Is anybody else seeing that? Huh. Let me shut this off. Bear with me. See if that fixes it. All right, so again, we're talking about the scientific beliefs of whether or not reincarnation exists. Einstein didn't believe in it. And Einstein was a pretty smart guy. He didn't believe in it. Darwin, well, they don't know specifically if Darwin believed in reincarnation, but Darwin believed in a physical death being a finality. There was an end. The process of dying and physical death was an end. So the school of thought is that Darwin would not believe in reincarnation based on what his beliefs are because of his understanding of the process of dying. And then we've got somebody a little more current, Neil Tyson deGrasse. I'm probably not pronouncing his name correctly, but you know who that guy is. And he says there is absolutely no proof of reincarnation, but he acknowledges that it does bring some people comfort. So also what Neil Tyson deGrasse says, or deGrasse Tyson, again, I apologize if I'm messing that up. He says, and this is a very loose quote, this is a paraphrase: belief without science is religion. And I said, well, that pretty much sums it up. Belief without science is religion. So reincarnation is definitely kind of more of a religion thing than a science thing. There's nothing to prove it. At least not at this point in time. There's a lot of things that are out there that we can't see that we know exist. So all in good time, I guess, right? There have certainly been some famous believers in reincarnation. Shirley MacLaine being a very famous one. People in my age group definitely know who Shirley MacLaine is, and she wrote many books back in the 70s. She believed that she had done like this past life regression, and had lived many hundreds of lifetimes, and good for her. And she sold a lot of books doing it. And she also happens to be Warren Beatty's sister. Little tidbit, which I think I don't know. I feel like I knew and didn't know. I forgot it for a long time and then just got kind of hit with that information again today. I'm going to turn my little heater on. George Harrison from the Beatles, he believed in reincarnation, and why the hell wouldn't he? He was a student of transcendental meditation, a very serious student of transcendental meditation, not just into yoga or meditating. He really studied this and went to India. I think all the Beatles did, and studied with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And if I thought Rikikesh, they went to Rikikesh, India, and studied there. I know my stuff. Hi, Jenna. Nice to see you. I'm so glad Jenna tuned in. Jenna's OG when it comes to live streaming. But yeah, Rikikesh, India is where the Beatles studied under the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for transcendental meditation. So they really studied it hard. So again, George Harrison believed in transcendental meditation. Henry Ford believed in Henry Ford believed in reincarnation, sorry. And we know who Henry Ford was. Henry Ford, the Ford Motor Company, and Henry Ford developed or fine-tuned, I guess he developed or created or invented even the assembly line. Before things used to be mass produced. I know, Aaron, I love the Beatles too. I thought that was a really cool tidbit about George Harrison. But Henry Ford was a genius, and he believed in reincarnation, and he said that he thinks that we are, that he thought that his genius came from the fruits. Yeah, please do share. But he believed that his genius came from the fruits of many lives. So Henry Ford, who, like I said, was a genius, and he fine-tuned the assembly line, and it just changed production throughout the world. He thought his genius came from having lived many lifetimes and learning many things. Remember I said from a few minutes back about I'm looking my notes over. Um, Something else, pagan and Wiccan, the belief that our soul evolves through the processes, and that's with Henry Ford. I'm sure he wasn't a pagan or a Wiccan, but clearly he believed that he evolved through these processes of rebirth through different um, entities, I guess, through time. Um, Carl Jung, the famous not parapsychologist, we'll see, psychoanalyst, he thinks, or he thought, because he doesn't think anything anymore. Yeah, but Carl Jung thought that we were reborn to finish unfinished tasks. So I kind of like the idea of that. You've been tasked with something, with, I don't know, helping something, doing something, making something right in the universe. And until you get it right, you're going to keep coming back. General George Patton, he believed in reincarnation, and he was a great war general, and he believed that his expertise came from being reborn from warriors, people who had experienced war in the past. Napoleon, Charles Dickens, Leo Tolstoy, who wrote War and Peace, Benjamin Franklin, Mark Twain, they all believed in reincarnation. Henry David Thoreau, who wrote Walden Pond, he believed in reincarnation. Voltaire, the French philosopher. Interesting that a lot of philosophers believe in it. Plato, Socrates, Pythagoras. Now we've got Voltaire, the French philosopher. Carl Jung, the psychoanalyst. Um, and then a couple of more current names. You've got like Keanu Reeves and Richard Gere, and they believe in reincarnation because they're practicing Buddhists. So that made me wonder. I didn't look any further at this, but I wonder about Madonna. She studies Kabbalah, and Kabbalah believes in reincarnation. So I didn't know about that. With Madonna, but again, those a couple of more current names that we all know: Keanu Reeves and Richard Gere. And those are current names for me. I'm sure there's more current, like, celebrities or movie stars or whatever out there who do believe in this. Um, I found there's a movie out there called Reincarnation, and then I found two pop culture novels, and both of them, one of them I tried to read, and one of them I tried to read. I'm not sure if I finished it. Both of them came out in the 70s. Well, the movie called Reincarnation, I think it's a fairly new horror movie, and I have not watched it. One of the books that came out in the 70s was called The Reincarnation of Peter Proud. I don't know if anybody remembers that. They did make a movie about it with Jennifer O'Neill. And but I remember like reading the first chapter of it and being freaked out. I was really young. I don't know, 12, 13 years old is probably not an appropriate book for me to be reading. And then the other one, I think maybe I was a little older, was The Reincarnation of Audrey Rose. And that one became a movie with Anthony Hopkins and Marsha Mason and all that, and it was pretty creepy, and it was about a little girl started having these horrific nightmares, and Anthony Hopkins starts like stalking the family, and he believes that the little girl is the reincarnation of his daughter who died in a bad accident, and this little girl that he thinks is the reincarnation is having nightmares to the effect of that accident. So we're going to hear a story kind of about that in one of our reincarnation stories that I have to tell you about. And now I have to turn my heater off. So famous cases of reincarnation. Wow, and I've been talking for a half an hour already. So I told you I had a ton of information to lay out there, and I thought it was interesting. There's the famous people beliefs, there's the religious beliefs, there's the scientific beliefs. Very, very different aspects of it all. But one famous case of reincarnation was from the 1930s. There was a person named Shanti Devi, and I don't have, I guess that was her name. Okay, Shanti Devi. Lisa, you remember both of those. That's where my fascination about reincarnation began too. So they were creepy, creepy stories. And this one that I'm going to tell you is just equally creepy. It's like, why have I not seen a movie about this? Also, by the way, check out YouTube. There is just an unlimited source of things like that program, The Ghost Inside My Child, where these young children, oh my God, creepy a story about this kid named Jace. I'm not going to present it tonight, but it was so intense. This little boy, he believes that he was somebody that died on September 11th in the Twin Towers. And you believe it too after watching this story. His parents certainly believe it, and but my point was, on YouTube, it's just an endless supply of, and of course you have to kind of ferret out what's the crap, what's the entertainment factor, and what's something that's educational, you know what I mean? And enjoy all of them, but know when to take things with a grain of salt. But the ghost within my child is a really good place to start, because there's just hundreds of videos. Anyways, back to this one. So this one takes place in the 1930s, in New Delhi, India. There was a girl born on December 11th in 1926. So I said it takes place in the 1930s. Well, she was born in 1926. Yeah, Bruce, a kid that died on a ship. I'm sure. I'm going to talk about. Hang on. I'm going to talk about a boy in a couple of minutes. But so Shanti Devi, born December 11th, 1926. And she lived to 1987. She claimed to remember the past life of a person named Lugdi Devi. I guess she did change her name, who died in 1925. So Shanti was born in 1926. She claimed to be a woman named Lugdi, who died in 1925. Lugdi died in 1925. Shanti was born in 1926. They were born 113 miles away from their location. So Shanti was born in Delhi, India, and Lugdi born and died in a city called Mathura, India. And I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. And as young as 4 years old, Shanti said to her parents that she had recalled what sounded like a previous life. She told her parents her home was in Mathura. She said she had a husband who lived there. So at 4 years old, she's telling her parents that she's got a husband that lives in a town 113 miles away that she had never heard of, but is now talking about. She was able to speak in the dialect of this town that was 113 miles away. She so much believed that she was this other person that at the age of 6 years old, she tried to run away. And I don't care who you are and where you are, 6 years old is a really, really young age to run away. But at 6 years old, she was running away to Mathura, and she was going to see her husband. And they stopped her and they brought her back home, and they made her go back to school. And in school, she was adamant to her teachers that she was married to, let's see, she was married and died 10 days after giving childbirth. I just dropped my shoe. Got to be comfortable. Sorry about that. But she was insistent to her teacher that she had been married and died 10 days after giving childbirth. And she also gave the name of a husband, of a person named Kadernath Chabi. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. And when they researched it, they found a man by the name of Kadernath. And he was in Mathura, in this town where this girl said that this was her husband in another life, and his wife had died. So in order to meet the girl and see if what she was saying were the truth, the husband brought the child to meet this girl and said, I am the brother of Kador Nath. And this girl said, no, you're not. You're him, and that's my kid. And she recognized them. This little girl, this little reincarnated girl who said that she was this wife, recognized this man, even though he showed up, they had never met, and said he was someone else. She said, no, you're not. You are my husband, and that's my child. So that was and supposedly she knew many details. So this case was so famous that it was investigated by Mahatma Gandhi. He set up well, not by him personally. That would be kind of funny. He set up a commission to study this. And they traveled with this little girl to Mathura. And they supposedly verified that she completely recognized several family members, including a grandfather. She knew locations, she knew details, she knew dates that this girl should not have known. The ultimate final report from Mahatma Gandhi's commission was that she was indeed the reincarnation of Lugdi Devi. Well, I can't say if she was or was not, but that's what Mahatma Gandhi's commission found. And certainly others say, well, of course not. There's no definitive proof. So I don't know either way, but I thought this was a very interesting story. And anyway, you look at it, somehow this little child knew some really weird things that she shouldn't have known. How? I don't know. So does it make me believe in reincarnation? Absolutely not. But does it open my mind to the possibility? Sure, it does. There's really weird synchronicities out there. There's just really weird stuff that happens. And this just seems to be one of them. Let's see. I've got another one that's actually from not really that long ago. This child was born in April 1998 in San Francisco, California, and his name was James Leninger. He was born in San Francisco, and when he was very small, like by the time he was 2, his family moved from San Francisco to Dallas and then to Lafayette, Louisiana. And between the ages of 2 and 5, while living in Lafayette, Louisiana, he became, at a very young age, became completely obsessed with World War II planes. So this was in 1998. And at one point, he and his mother were shopping somewhere, and the mother picked up, I don't know if it was a model or whatever. I mean, this kid was little, and the mother picked up a World War II model type plane and said, oh, look, there's a bomb underneath. And like at the age of 5, he's like, no, Mom, that's a drop tank. And it turns out he was right. It was not a bomb. It was a drop tank. That's exactly what it was. And he just shouldn't have known that. And they were on certain models of airplanes. He began having nightmares up to 5 times a week. I was talking about the reincarnation of Audrey Rose. That was very graphic in the novel and in the movie too, that this girl was having nightmares of a horrific accident. This boy started having really bad nightmares, like I said, up to 5 times a week. And he would say things at like very young age: airplane crash, plane on fire, little man can't get out. And he was saying very specific things to his parents after these horrific nightmares. At such a young age, at 28 months old, so that's a little over 2 months old, his parents gleaned out of him. And again, you do have to take things with a grain of salt, but supposedly his parents gleaned out of him through questioning that he was, quote unquote, little man, as a nickname, and that his plane was shot down by the Japanese. A few weeks later, and this child's name was James, but a few weeks later, he added that his name was James, and he had flown a Corsair off of a boat called Natoma, which he insisted was an American ship, not Japanese, even though it certainly sounds Japanese. And he added that he had a friend named Jack Larson who was shot down near Iwo Jima. So I would certainly love to see a a video of that questioning and see just how leading it was. But I think you'll find there are some interesting coincidences or synchronicities. And at the age of 2.5 years old, he provided many cultural and time references. He was drawing pictures that depicted brutal plane crashes in the air, flames, and people being ejected from airplanes. And his parents were devout Christians and in disbelief of reincarnation, because, as I said, the Catholic Church does frown on that belief because it kind of goes against the eternal afterlife. But they did some research and they were able to corroborate a lot of stuff that that this kid said. So it turns out so much stuff was corroborated that the person who he said he was, this James guy, they tracked down his sister, and his sister believed this was the reincarnation of her brother. So he had said he had flown a Corsair off of a boat called Natoma. It turns out there was an aircraft carrier called the USS Natoma. And it did not, Corsairs did not fly off the USS Natoma. But this is where this girl gets goosebumps, okay? But they found a picture of this guy, James, a photograph of him standing next to a Corsair, which is an airplane, before he flew for the service. So I guess if it's real reincarnation, can you hold something so minute against somebody? This kid said he flew a Corsair off of a ship called the Natoma. The Natoma was a real ship. They verified that. And this guy who he claimed to be really did fly a Corsair. And even talking about that really gave me goosebumps, because that's a really weird thing. And you can understand kind of the cross wires on that. So that kind of freaked me out. They verified the friend named Jack that was shot down near Iwo Jima. It was just really, really bizarre. And then he said, oh, James McCready Houston. That was the name of the reincarnated pilot. But so James Leninger said, he remembered choosing the Lenningers as his parents. So I think that's really kind of cool. So this person, this energy, at one time, hypothetically speaking, was James McCready Houston, and he was shot down in World War II by the Japanese. And then this 2.5-year-old comes up with all these really, really crazy references to this James McCready Houston's life, and then says he remembers choosing the Lenningers as his parents. I just think that's really weird, and I think that, to me, I think that means that, what is that theory that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only, what, transferred? I don't know, what is it? So that maybe we were an energy before, we're an energy now, and when we die, our energy somehow will continue. Interesting thought. This child says he remembers dying, and he remembers choosing these people as his parents, and I think that's interesting. And even if you don't believe, it's heartwarming. And then there's a very, very famous case of a lady named Dorothy Eady, E-A-D-Y. And to tell you about these things, these are not even the tip of the iceberg. I'm only giving you 3 or 4 little quick hits, and then I'm going to tell you a little quick story. And then, does anybody have any of their own personal reincarnation stories that they'd like to share? So in 1904, in Britain, a girl was born named Dorothy Louise Eady. I think they called her Louise Eady. And she, at 3 years old, she suffered a fall and she died. And they brought her back. So that would have been in 1907. So she suffered a fall, I guess probably had a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. She was pronounced dead and she was revived. On revival of this from dying after this accident, she spoke with a foreign accent at 3 years old, the age of 3 years old. And she told her family that she didn't belong there and that her home was in Egypt. So this was at 3 years old. She's a very little girl. At some point, as a little girl in Sunday school, they asked to keep her out of Sunday school because they said she was a little heathen because she was talking about ancient Egyptian religious practices and not the current Christianity that they were supposed to be studying in Sunday school. I don't know what religion they were. But she was able to sorry, I lost my place there. So her family at one point took her to a museum in Britain, and she saw a temple in a garden, and she said to her parents, and this was at a very young age, "That is my home. Where are the gardens? Where are the trees?" So there were these things that were kind of tying this girl to Egypt and Egyptian history, and the parents thought it was really weird. And this girl just, let's say, she was actually institutionalized several times for sleepwalking and nightmares. But she was insistent that she was from Egypt. And as time went on, it was really weird. As time went on, she was able to provide eerily accurate knowledge and detail of ancient Egypt. She was able to decipher hieroglyphs. She discovered things that hadn't been discovered. And eventually, I think she worked for one of the British museums in one of the Egyptian departments, Department of Egyptology, whatever. And an Egyptian citizen who worked there too proposed to her, and she agreed to marry him. And she moved to Egypt, and she began working in Egypt. And actually, through her supposed knowledge from reincarnation, was able to transcribe hieroglyphs and uncover temples and gardens and things that nobody knew where they were, and bring to light different religious practices that supposedly had been forgotten. She knew things that had never been published or shared with the public until she had told people. So this was a very, very uncanny case of supposed reincarnation. All of these things are supposed. I don't know what happens after we die. I have no idea. But I thought this was a really interesting subject because so many people definitely expressed an interest in it. And like with every live stream I do, the minute I started looking into it, I was like, holy cow, who knew there were so many different views on it? I mean, like I said, we looked at the scientific view, religious view, spiritual view, celebrity view, right? Views of movie and TV, very graphic. So let's see, Carrie, her son, Carrie, I'm going to post this. Here's an interesting one. That's very interesting, Carrie. So I think that, you know what, Carrie, I think that he chose you. And I think to have that knowledge is really exciting. So he chose you. That is so cool. So yeah, so we reviewed a couple of cases. We heard a personal experience from Carrie. That is really crazy. I have a personal experience. I don't know if it's reincarnation, but is Kathy Ferrara watching tonight? She watches so many of my live streams. Well, the reason why I'm bringing up Kathy Ferrara is because one time a few years back, Kathy Ferrara posted a picture of something, and it was this. And it's this crazy freaking bridge. And I think this is in Japan. I feel like a couple of things in Japan come up tonight. But anyways, that bridge in Japan, and when I saw that, I was like, I know that bridge. I've dreamt about that bridge. I've been on that bridge. Certainly not in this Jennifer Louise Silver Payne incarnation. I have never been on that bridge, but I have been on that bridge, and I don't know any other way to say it. And I knew before I ever saw it that I had been on that bridge. And when I saw that bridge, it was such an weird aha moment for me. Like, holy shit, that bridge is real. So I don't know if that's reincarnation, and I don't know if it's deja vu. And is deja vu a peek into reincarnation? I've been here before. I've done this before. I don't know, but it makes you think. I had another experience at the Emory Estate, which I love that place. It's in Weymouth. It's not far from here. And it was the very first time I went there. It was April 24th, 2024. It was one of the first paranormal investigations I ever went on, and I loved it, and I fell in love with it. But if anybody knows the Emory Estate, I was on the third floor in the little boy's room that was autistic, that they used to chain to the radiator. So, what was the bridge built? What bridge? Oh, that bridge, Nathan. I don't know. That's a really good question. You know what? I'm going to jot that down. When was that bridge built? And find out. So now I totally lost my thought. What was the other the Emory Estate. So on the third floor, where the supposed autistic child lived, my first time there, April 24th, 2024, I was standing in this room with another girl, another woman, and she was younger than me, and it was just the two of us. And she said to me, and I had never met her before, and she said to me, "This is just like the house in my dreams." And I said, I know the house you're talking about. I said, and every time you go into a room, there's another room and another closet, and she said, and it fills you with joy. And I said, yes. I said, I know the house, I know the dream, I know the feeling. And I'm not saying that I had ever been to the Emory Estate before, but I am saying that me and this young lady seemed to have a really weird shared experience in this third floor room, almost like something out of Dark Shadows, that we were kind of transported to I don't know, I don't know. Maybe we were feeling something residual, not so much a reincarnation thing. But those were a couple of experiences that I had myself. Um, and then I don't think my cousin Michelle is watching tonight, but I do want to, I have a little joke. I call my cousin Michelle the Akashic record of the Silibert family. And if you know what the Akashic record is, it's everything that we ever think done, gonna do. It's all on record. It's all been done before. It's all been thought out, and it's all part of a divine plan. And that is painting Akashic record with a very, very broad brush. But it's the memory of everything that's ever happened in the universe. Um, and I call my cousin Michelle the Akashic record of the Silibert family because sometimes my cousin Michelle recalls things quite uncannily that happened before she was born. Um, when she said that she remembered going for ice cream in Uncle Jimmy's pink Cadillac. Well, Uncle Jimmy was my dad. My dad was Jimmy Silibert, and that pink Cadillac, he got rid of that before I was born, and I'm 2 years older than Michelle. So I don't know. I don't know. They're just like Michelle just seems to have some memory of some things that happened in the family, and I'm glad. And it's just kind of weird and a little uncanny. I wish I could cite a few more things. But for me, this bridge just evokes such weird feelings. Nathan, when I go offline, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find out when that bridge was built. I was born in 64. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. But anyways, as always, I want to thank everybody for joining me. I think I pretty much covered all my 6 pages of notes. Some of you really hung in there. I'm so sorry that I couldn't interact with all of you tonight because I had so much information to present. I hope you enjoyed everything. I want to thank everybody for watching. Just going over my notes, let's see, we covered all the different schools of thoughts on reincarnation. Who knew there were so many different schools of thoughts? But ultimately, reincarnation is the idea of being reborn into a new form after death, and it is an interesting concept. And even after this, thank you, Mark. Even after this live stream, hit me up with your comments about reincarnation. Let's continue the conversation. All my fans, I do love you all. Jenna Sipe, thank you so much for watching. You know I am sitting in this chair because of you. So thank you very much. And this is the last time I'll say Happy New Year for 2026, but Happy New Year, everybody. And thank you again for tuning in. Thank you, Lisa, and bye-bye, everybody.